dance for joy or lust or anger, and every time you have
a series where we look at practical and sensible cars that you can buy for between a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 2012 Volkswagen Jetta 1.4 TSI S. But is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out, shall we? So, the 6th generation Jetta, it was known as the Jetta in North America, certainly for all generations of car, although it had other names in other parts of the world, was launched in 2011 in our market. It stayed on the market until 2017 and was never directly replaced, actually. These cars are very similar underneath to the Mark 5 and Mark 6 Golfs, apart from the rear suspension, which for our market was a multi-link system, and some of the markets was I think a torsion beam, actually, depending on what Volkswagen wanted to do and how they saw this car. In many markets it was sort of seen as like a cheap offering or entry-level offering in comparison with others, and particularly in South America where saloons of this type are still quite popular. They were seen as like a taxi spec type thing, which is why they cheapened out things like the dashboard and the rear climate vents, which of course this car doesn't have either because it's a base spec. But it's interesting how these cars were sort of viewed differently, whereas over here the Jettas are kind of seen as a bit more of a sort of premium offering than the Golf. There were 2 engines when the car was launched, both 1.4 TSI engines. This 120 brake horsepower version, which came with this 6-speed manual, and the 157 brake horsepower version of the same engine. When the car was facelifted in 2014, that engine was actually replaced, along with the other lower powered one, with a brand new 1.4 TSI engine with 147 horsepower. There are also some diesels available, but as usual, due to controversial government legislation and all kinds of other reasons, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. I have driven this engine before in a Golf on second-hand reviews. It was a 2011, and it's fine. It's not the fastest thing in the world. This I think 0 to 60 is about 10 seconds or something. Gearbox is quite nice to use. It's very precise. The steering is pretty good. It's not the sportiest car ever, but it actually handles quite well. It's very comfortable to drive. The driving position is superb, and you can adjust it however you want to get a really good comfortable position to spend a long time. I imagine a lot of these cars were used by fleet customers and things like that, although to be honest, fleet didn't really want something like this because the depreciation on them was pretty bad. These days a car like this is worth about £4,000, which doesn't seem too bad to me. In fact, I prefer one of these to a Passat, really. The Passat, it does offer some slightly better engines than this. It's a very restricted choice with petrols and the Jetta. It's also a bit smaller for parking and things like that. And you kind of got to stand out in this because it's good to know what on earth it is. We're so used to seeing, Mark 6 and 7 Golfs in this country, that seeing one of these, although they're very popular in other parts of the world, is very unusual. In many ways it looks like a sort of shrunken Passat, and I suppose it is in some ways. This car's got some non-original wheel trims on it, because when Lee from LSB Car Sales near Thatcham in Berkshire, who was kindly agreed I can drive us today, got it in. It didn't have any wheel trims at all. And being an S model, it's quite rare. Now, most people would have gone for maybe a Sport or an SE or something like that, but the owner who got this, they not only went for the base model, they also went for one with optional parking sensors, which is Very, very unusual, but I'm very grateful to for doing that, because it makes it a bit easier to park. So if we open up the boot here, absolutely, utterly enormous. It's almost as big as a Passat boot. I mean, you could, you know, hurl bags of cement in here or something like that, or trips to the gardening centre, just if you ever want. It's absolutely enormous. Do we get a space saver spare wheel? Actually, that's a full-size wheel. Wow! Isn't that amazing? Not only do we have an enormous boot, we actually have a full-size spare. Those are the levers for folding the rear seats. Quite a big opening, quite a big lip. It's sort of similar in a way to the old Mark IV Seat Toledo I used to have, which came out about the same time, about 2013 I think they actually came out in this country. This is a 2012, and actually the rear end of this car, in terms of the suspension, is very, very similar to one of those. Don't know why we just kind of don't like cars like this in the country anymore. The only one I can think of that's still on sale is a Mazda 3 Saloon. Everything else in this class is just gone. And that's a shame. I think this car is, you know, really practical, and I just like the shape of these saloons. I think it's nice. I would prefer a higher trim level myself, but trying to get hold of any of these at all is just impossible. They're just not around. So we don't have soft plastic on the door tops, but then you didn't get that in one of the Golfs anyway on the rear doors. The rear sort of styling of a door card does remind me again of a Mark IV Toledo, which is no surprise whatsoever. So built in Mexico, these cars actually for our market and elsewhere in the world too. We'll go over some of the other places where these were made a bit later. Very easy to get in and out, and lots of room, loads of room in fact. And we've got a little dial there for putting the door opening. There we go. That's the one it should be on. Then a huge big sort of optional ashtray thing I think there. We will have more features in the centre console with higher spec. Obviously it's the S. You don't even get map pockets, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No centre armrest, just the S. Lots and lots of sort of kind of unrelenting hard plastic, but very practical obviously. Just like an old Mark IV Toledo, which is, you know, very practical too, and lots of hard plastic. We do get some little bits of chrome accent in the doors, chrome door handles, and then a little bit of fabric there, so it's not too bad. But yeah, loads of space, very comfortable. I can imagine that, you know, where these cars are popular, which is something like South America, that, you know, we use them as taxis, and I'm sure they'd be fantastic with that too. But yeah, not much else to say. 12-volt socket down there. Getting in and out is pretty easy actually. That's really good. And in here we have all the old familiar Volkswagen switchgear. Got the old mirror switch there, and the window switches there, and the headlight control there, and the wiper indicator stalks there. It's all really familiar. This car has done 105,000 miles, but it doesn't really feel like that at all. It feels really tight, and actually this car's lasted quite well into the interior. You can't really, there's no real sign of a mileage in here at all, which is good. I suppose actually the factory in Mexico where they made these for the European market was putting cars together pretty well at the time. I haven't got any sat nav or anything like that. Normal handbrake, normal 6-speed manual, aux input down there, idiot proof heater and ventilation controls. Fantastic. This is the kind of thing I like. Lots of adjustments in the seat, so it's nice and comfortable. No leather on the steering wheel, which is a shame. I prefer an SE, which you get some of that. No controls on the steering wheel. Again, you need to upgrade to a higher trim level to get them. And then lots and lots of storage places, cup holders, and a place there which would normally be an armrest, but it's not. Nice big door bins with a release there for the boot. Big kind of floor hinged pedal there, which is typical sort of Volkswagen of this era. which is good. Just no nonsense. I would prefer someone to put sunglasses. I imagine you could probably put them in there, but it's not kind of rubber lined or anything. That could cause some scratching. Soft touch dash. Now, for our market, we actually got a soft touch dash, and we got multi-link rear suspension. A lot of the other markets around the world with the Jettas didn't get soft touch dashes or multi-link suspension. I think until the facelift that occurred around 2014. So it sort of cheapened out on these cars at Volkswagen because they knew they could sell them for a lower price. And this is not based on a Mark 7 Golf, by the way. This is based on the same PQ35 platform as the Mark 5 and Mark 6 Golfs, and that was the case all the way until the end of these cars' sales lives in 2017. Right, I suppose I should try my secret mission documents. There we go. Oh yes, no problem. There's a pen holder down there at the bottom as well. And if you move that further across, does that actually go in? Yes. Oh, viewers. It always makes me feel happy when I do that. Okay. Well, there's not much to see in here. If I put the key in, do we get any kind of funny stuff at all to play with or not? No. No. Lots of beeps and things like that. Yeah, it could do the service, and there's not much petrol in it. There's enough petrol to get me around to filming today, though, so that's fine. Not much to say, really. I mean, you know, there's radio presets along there. That's very easy to change different settings on the stereo system. It's not really an entertainment system because no entertainment here at all apart from radio 2. You could have an aux input, of course, which is good. Yeah, but that's a way that actually some of you would like a car like this anyway. You don't really need anything fancy. You need some air conditioning, and the air conditioning of this car works nicely. You need radio and an aux in, and that's about it. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet, shall we? So this is the 1.4 TSI engine in this car, which generates 120 horsepower. I believe, from what I understand, this is a chain-driven engine. Not all the 1.4 TSIs were chain-driven. I think this one is. There were some other models available with other power outputs, and I think actually the later engine that came after this 120 horsepower engine was replaced at the facelift is quite different from this earlier one. We do, however, of course, have the famous Volkswagen coolant reservoir that was around at the dawn of time in this car. So many different cars use this in the Volkswagen empire. Looks reasonably easy to work on and things like that. One thing I would say is if it is got a rattly timing chain, I think these are chain driven, I would probably not want to buy the car. This one seems fine. Upside down oil filter means when you start the car initially, there's a little bit of a rattle before the oil filter fills up, but that's nothing to worry about really. It's quite common on many cars. My Sanyong Tivoli is actually like that, same design. Yeah, I think actually it's quite nice in terms of the front end, even on this S model without the you know, fog lights and things. It's a pleasant looking car really. Obviously most parts are shared with the Golf. Rear suspension's a bit different. Even the multi-link one I think is a bit different than the Golf, but you know, not difficult to find service bits for or anything like that. Right, I think it's time to go for another drive, viewers. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. So thanks to the rarity of these 6th generation Jettas, you just don't see them around very much. I mean, I would go for something like an SE and go for a facelifted car if it were me. I would probably not want to get one with the DSG transmission, even if the transmission had been serviced before the maintenance schedule says it should be, because those can be very, very problematic indeed. I have sourced a car with 1.4 TSI engine and DSG gearbox before. It was Chiran for a client, and that did not go very well at all, viewers, I'm afraid. So I would stick with this nice 6-speed manual if you can. Although if you really need an auto, just really make sure the service history is thorough for that. In fact, buying any of these Jettas, make sure the service history is thorough. Let's now look, viewers, at some A6 Volkswagen Jetta trim levels. The basic ones, when the car was launched in 2011, were S, SE and Sport. Now these only really lasted until 2014, when the whole range was rejigged and there was a facelift. I think those cars arrived with a 64 registration. The top model became the GT, and then there was the SE that remained. It's a very popular trim level for many manufacturers, including Volkswagen. There was also a limited edition at one point. The car was built in Mexico for our market, but also in Russia, China, Malaysia, Brazil, North Korea, bizarrely, where it was known as something really strange that I can't pronounce, and India. The car was still known as the Vento in Chile and Argentina, and it was known as the Secondhand in China. Vento was a name that let's get this right. The third generation of the booted Golfs had in our market, but Jettas were badged in all kinds of things over the years, and in America they just keep being badged as Jetta, whereas they kept messing around. The Bora was name was used as well over here for the fourth generation car. This the sixth generation one was known as the Jetta in most markets. So yes, should you consider a sixth generation Volkswagen Jetta with your hard-earned budget up to £5,000? Well, they suffer from sort of the same problems that the Golfs do, really. The electrics can fail. You can have suspension issues with these cars. The main thing of those to watch is whether your engine's got a timing belt. They're both used in this car. Whether or not that is an issue. This one seems okay at 105,000 miles, but do just watch that. Other than that, they are cars that are much cheaper than the equivalent Golf. This one's up for about £4,000. I think the equivalent Golf will be a little bit more. Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it despite the fact it's a base model. It's the sort of thing that a few years ago would have been very appealing to me indeed. Anyway, thank you so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more reasonably priced motoring.